Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. May I?
You may.
Okay. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for being here. Why are you here to testify today?
Because I was subpoenaed.
What is your occupation?
I'm a teacher,
And how long have you been a teacher?
approximately 12 years,
Where do you teach?
West Glades Middle School.
And what do you teach?
I'm currently teaching sixth grade art.
And have you always taught art?
No,
All right. What have you also taught or previously taught?
language arts.
Okay. What about during the 2013 to 2014 school year? What were you teaching?
Eighth grade language arts.
Okay. Was it a remedial class?
Just general education class.
Okay. Do you hold any special certification in exceptional student education, ESE?
Not a special certification, just the standard general teacher education.
Okay. So there is a special certification that ESE teachers can have. You just don't have that.
Right, correct.
Okay. And can you tell us how your classroom was physically set up in 2013 in your language arts class?
It was just set up in rows of desks.
Okay, like a traditional classroom like you see on television.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And about how many students would be in your class each year?
Somewhere between 22 to 25, generally.
And was it an independent work type of class, lecture format? How did you run the class?
It was a mixed class. It depends on the day. So sometimes it was independent lecture, sometimes it was independent work, sometimes it was group work.
Generally speaking, when you're teaching your class, do you have other adults in your classroom?
No, not usually.
Okay. Did you have any sort of teacher's aide or paraprofessional with you regularly?
Not that year, not the beginning of the year. No, not really.
Okay. Do you know Nicholas Cruz?
Yes,
How do you know him?
he was my student.
Do you remember when?
The 2013, 2014 school year.
Okay. When you first met him, what was your first impression of him?
He made me very uncomfortable, and I immediately thought something was kind of up. You know, I put him on my radar to watch him, keep an eye on him.
When the school year started, were you aware that he was an ESE student?
Yeah, they provide you with the IEP at a glance at the beginning of the school year, so I would have had that.
Okay. And do you recall, excuse me, what his eligibilities were?
If I look at the IEP, I mean, I know he had like EBD and I think he had speech, but I don't remember specifically every eligibility. I'd have to look at it and go through it.
Okay. And when you say EBD, what is that?
Emotional behavior disorder?
Okay. Do you remember him having language eligibility?
Yes, because I know he went to speech.
And what special accommodations, if any, did you make for him in your class?
Seating, proximity, you know, he got some just help on assignments, additional help and assistance, things like that. Extra time. He also was allowed to go to the ESE resource room to get assistance on work.
And how did he perform in your class academically?
He struggled very poorly. He did not perform very well at all.
Were there any particular types of assignments he had difficulty with?
Anything that had to do with writing, anything like even sentences, paragraphs, essays, things like that, he really struggled with.
When did he start having those academic problems in your class?
Immediately, right from the beginning.
And did you keep some of the work that he turned into you in your class?
I did.
And is that something that you normally do with your students?
I normally keep a record for the school year and then they take it home, the students. So I keep a record of their work to see how they're performing and how they, how they improve over the school year. But his I kept longer.
Okay, and why is that?
It just seemed like something I should hold on to. I didn't want it to get lost. A lot of my paperwork and notes were in there, and I didn't want any of that to get lost, all of it.
Okay, did you have a concern that it would get lost?
I did. I was sharing the materials with other resources at school, the principal, assistant principal, and ESC services, and everybody I could. And so I wanted to make sure that I had the original copies of everything, so nothing would disappear.
Okay, and did you save any other documents regarding Nicholas besides his own work?
I saved my log that I took notes on.
Okay, and we're going to pull up on a screen share a document, and I want you to go ahead and take a look at the first couple pages and tell me if that looks familiar to you. Can you please show pages 1 through 3 or 4? Thank you.
I can't see it just yet.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's up yet. Just one moment.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. His IEP?
Okay. Do these documents look familiar to you, the 145
Yeah.
pages? Okay.
Yeah.
Are these the notes that you kept and his schoolwork that you kept?
I mean, from what I can see so far, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these notes and the work, was that all saved at the time that they were done?
Yes.
Okay, and these fairly and accurately depict those notes that you saved?
Ms. Curtis?
Yeah.
The jury cannot see the document.
Oh.
It's not, is it too small? Is that what the problem is? It's blurry. It seems like nothing is going right today. Sorry about that.
Is that better?
So they have to magnify over there.
So we magnified it, I don't.
Yes. Yeah. I can see it. I have a copy of it here too that you provided, so.
Okay.
This is fine, but this is not.
So we can see it, it's just very blurry. Okay, it shouldn't be blurry. Ian, Ian says it's from the Zoom side that it needs to be corrected, so he's gonna try to help you all if you
This
need.
doesn't show me, it's only comes from.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even.
I can't hear the judge. Am I supposed to be hearing
It's okay, ma'am.
Judge Drew?
Ma'am, I don't know if you could, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
We are
Okay.
just trying to figure out some technological difficulties issues
Okay.
on our end. And so, no, there's nothing you should be hearing. Just if you can
Okay.
give us a minute or so to try to get this clear. You're
Okay.
able to see it and I'm able to see it, but the jurors are not. So
Okay.
we're trying to figure out what the problem is.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
It's clear up there, but not on the screen.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Judge, I think maybe Mr. Secor was suggesting if I have a copy here, I can put it here for the jurors, and Ms. Yon says she has a copy and they're bait stamped, so we have numbers.
Okay.
Maybe we could try it that way, or is that better? I don't know if that's,
Well-
you can ask the jury if that's
Well,
better.
why don't you show it to them?
They're looking at a different page now.
Is that the page that's within your packet?
All of these pages are within my packet.
I understand, but you're saying that you're going to show the witness
No.
on Zoom, and you're going to show the
Yeah.
jury from the projector.
I'm not showing the witness by Zoom. I'm going to ask her, she has a copy, I'm going to ask her to refer to what she has in her possession in person while the jury is looking at it on the screen.
Okay.
Unless does that seem, Ms. Blackwood, is that better? This is a different page. Does that look better?
Are you asking me?
No.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
this. Let's do this. We're gonna take a recess for a minute. We're gonna go off the record because this is embarrassing for our circuit that we can't get this the right way. We need to figure this.
L be entered into evidence.
This is the. Okay. Okay. State, do you have any objection to the court receiving Defense Composite Exhibit 5L?
No, Your Honor, you do not.
Okay, thank you. Without objection, Defense 5L will be received as Defense 78. Thank you.
How did you keep these documents, Ms. Yon?
Some of them are digital and some of them I printed out and put in a folder.
Okay, and I'm going to show you on page 133 of these documents.
Okay.
Is this the folder that you kept them in?
Yes.
Okay. And is that note something you wrote?
Mrs. Curtis, can you make
No,
a little bit?
that's not my writing.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. It's cut off.
Do you know who wrote that note?
Antonio Lindsay,
And who's that?
he was assistant principal that I worked with during this time. So he
Okay.
and I talked a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to ask that you look at some of these assignments and tell us if these are some of the assignments that Nicholas turned into you. So we'll start with page 8, please.
Here. Okay.
And go through to page 11, please. Okay, can you go back to 10? I'm sorry.
Okay, let me just tell the jurors what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, this document is in evidence, which means you'll have an opportunity to view it as long or as little as you want when you're deliberating. So don't feel like if you miss one thing now, you're not going to be able to look at it, because you will be. So when they're flipping through certain things, don't feel like you need to be a speed reader, because obviously nobody can read that fast, okay? Okay.
Is the work that Mr. Cruz turned into you the quality of work you would normally see in your 8th grade students?
No.
Okay. Can we go please to page 70? So on this was a test, it says minus 23 out of 35. Somehow he got 58%.
Yeah, it might have been, I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but this might have been one that was curved. I don't even know.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Can we look at, please, pages 75 through 79?
Okay. Yeah.
This is an assignment Mr. Cruz turned in?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, you can, that's 75 through 79, please. Okay. Okay, wait, can we go back a moment? Okay, that's fine. You can keep going to 79, please. This is an assignment he turned in?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
And then I want to look at 88 through
What that
93,
is.
please. Did his classwork become increasingly inappropriate as the term went on?
Yes.
Okay, it contained curse words, inappropriate, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. Curse
Inappropriate
words.
pictures?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Can we go through to page 93, please? So this is the persuasive essay. This is the, what is this document? I'm sorry.
This is a standard essay that all the 8th grade students take.
Okay, so
It's,
these are these the instructions?
These are the instructions, and then I added additional notes to help him as part of his IEP.
Okay, and can we go back to page, I think it's 91 maybe? Can you scroll up, please? Okay, is this his 5-paragraph essay?
Looks like it.
Okay. And I want to look at pages 103 to 108, please. And this is a persuasive advertisement. That's what it looks like the assignment is. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And his product was called the Sex Boat?
Yes.
Okay. This is more of that same assignment?
Yes.
Okay. And this appears to be a vocabulary quiz?
Yes.
Okay. How do they receive the quiz? How is that administered?
They get a piece of paper that has all the questions on it, and then they put the answers on a separate piece of notebook paper.
Okay, so it has at the top vocabulary quiz, and then it has the words, and they have to, okay.
They have to match.
Okay,
Match the words with the definition, and then use it in a sentence at the bottom. They have to pick which word goes in the sentence.
okay. Okay, if we could keep going. Okay, so this seems to be more of the sex boat assignment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is as well.
Okay, and then if we can go to page 110, please. Is this part of that same assignment?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a storyboard. Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay. And then 112, please. Whose writing is that in the purple?
That's mine.
Okay. And
I gave him charm.
why do you think he was turning in work like this with these images and these words?
I think this is what he thought about. I think this is what he was fixated on.
Okay. And do you think he wanted to be in your class?
No. I don't think he wanted to be in my class or anyone's class.
Do you think you want to be at that school?
No.
Did he ever say anything that made you think that?
He said things to other students that he can't believe he's still at the school and he was trying to get kicked out.
Okay. Can we go to 114, please? Do you think he would have said, written or drawn anything to get attention?
I think at times I believed that in the beginning, but then I think because he was so consistent with his inappropriate drawings and language that it wasn't about getting kicked out at some point. It was just about what he was fixated on.
Okay, and can we go to 129, please? You can go down to 132, please. This is an assignment he turned in?
Looks like it, yes.
Okay. Can we go to 139, please? Was there any work Nicholas was able to complete in your class that bore any resemblance to the assignment?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, can we go to 143, please? And then down to 145. Okay. We can stop with the sharing. Did he ever do anything, to your knowledge, that indicated he was unhappy about his poor performance academically?
He made comments about me giving him poor grades or not grading things. So
Did he do anything physically with his work when he would receive it?
he would crumple up his work frequently or just throw it in his bag.
Okay. So academically, he was not successful at all in your class. How about socially? Did he have any friends in your class?
I don't believe he did. At times he would joke around with some kids, and I don't know if they were in the beginning just entertained by him, you know, watching him or socializing with him, but I don't know that he had any true friends.
Okay. Did he seem to be able to make friends?
Not that I saw.
Okay. So he's unsuccessful academically and socially. How about behaviorally? How was his behavior?
It was very poor.
And when did his behavior become poor in your class?
Right from the beginning.
Okay. And generally, what sort of poor behaviors would you see from him?
He was extremely impulsive and erratic with his behavior, so it was just random outbursts, inappropriate language, trying to do anything he could to either get attention at times or just not do the work.
Okay. So some of that you thought might be avoidance behavior?
Some of it was. Some of it was him just lacking perhaps self-control.
Okay. And did you write any referrals on him while he was in your class?
Yes, many.
Okay. And were you aware of any other referrals that were written on him from other teachers?
Only the teachers that I talked to throughout that school year.
Okay.
And then more recently, I know he's had, you know, a lot of others, but during that time period, I wasn't aware of all of them.
Okay. What are some of the behaviors that you saw that made you write referrals?
Inappropriate language, I mean, there were so many different events that caused me to write a referral, just insubordination, leaving the classroom without permission, and, just sticking up his middle finger at people. I mean, there was a lot.
Okay. Was he disruptive to your class?
Constantly.
Okay. At some point, were you asked to document his behavior?
Yes.
And what was the reason for that?
They were doing a reevaluation on his IEP at first, and then it was due to the behavior and conduct issues they were having with him.
Okay. And are you familiar with a functional behavioral assessment?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's just to assess what the student is doing and what you're seeing in your classroom.
Okay. And did you document for a functional behavioral assessment?
I did.
When he first started in your class, were you given his complete IEP, or were you just given the at-a-glance 2-page document that summarized?
I don't recall. It was 9 years ago, so I don't know exactly what I was given. Usually we were given the at a glance
Okay. And when
at
he
the beginning
came,
of the year.
okay. So that summarizes what?
It summarizes the most important things you need to know about the student,
Miss
the
Yon,
most recent information
Miss
on their education plan.
Miss Yon,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, it seems like the connection might have gone out for a moment, so I'm going to ask
Okay.
Curtis to go rewind a few like a paragraph
Okay.
approximately, and I don't know who's, it could be on our side, I'm not sure, but you cut out for a minute, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Sure, she's frozen again.
Okay. So,
No, hold on a second, Miss Curtis, she's frozen.
I am. Can you hear me now?
On my screen, there's a delay.
We have a good connection here.
yeah, it's a little bit laggy.
I'm sure it's our fault.
Oh,
Can we?
sorry.
No, please, it's not your fault. Can we restart?
Okay.
Stop his Zoom and start it.
Excuse me?
We can stop his Zoom and start it.
Will that help?
Depends, is she on wireless there or hardwired?
Do you know if your wireless connection is, or your connection is wireless or hardwired?
Wireless. I can log into a computer that's hardwired if I need to.
Ma'am, if you wouldn't mind, would you try doing that, and then we're gonna disconnect and reconnect, because you seem to be freezing up quite a bit on our end. And I need to
Okay.
make sure everyone can hear and see. So if you would just log
Okay.
in and out, and then log out and then back in, and then we're gonna do the same, okay?
Okay,
All
no
right,
problem.
thank you.
All right.
Ian, are you taking care of that? Thank you. while we wait for her to log in, I'm gonna grab something. A little bit. That's her, yes.
Come to order, may I see that?
Okay, Miss Yon,
Yes.
thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for logging back in. It seems the connection is better. So let's
Okay.
go ahead and, Ms. Curtis, I think the last question or two that you asked, there was a bit of a delay, so if you want to
Okay.
just go back.
Okay. I think you said you did not remember whether you received the entire IEP or just the IEP at a glance.
Correct.
Okay. And what does the IEP at a glance tell you?
The IEP at a glance just highlights the goals, the objectives, and a little bit about his history and different requirements for you to help them, like accommodations to help them be successful.
Okay. So when he started the class, were you aware of his academic struggles and behavioral struggles in the 6th and 7th grade?
Not immediately, but eventually I was.
While he was still your student?
Yes.
Okay. And I had asked you about documenting your behavior for the functional behavioral assessment, and you said you were doing that?
Yes, I did do that.
Okay. And you had you already been documenting his behaviors at this point?
I started documenting the beginning of the year,
Okay.
my own personal.
And is that the documents that we were referring to earlier, the 145 pages?
Some of that is, I have a log that I wrote that was documenting, and then yes, I kept his work for reference as well.
Okay. And after February 14th of 2018, who did you turn those documents over to?
I've turned them over to several people. Principal, I believe I turned them over to the ESC department. I turned them over to when he went to Cross Creek. I mean, there was several different times that I gave that to people.
Okay. And were you aware of whether those documents, your personal notes and that work, was provided by the school board in this case to the defense and to the state?
No, I didn't know that. I don't know if it was or wasn't. I couldn't have known.
Okay. When did you advise the defense and the state that you had this packet of documents?
When did I advise? I'm sorry, you like at school are you referencing or during this legal case?
During the case.
Okay. When we met for deposition?
Okay. And did you find out at that time whether all of your materials had been provided? in the school board records?
I believe so.
Okay, I want to go through some of the behavioral notes. If we could put page 16 from October 3rd of 2013. You testified that some of his behaviors were disruptive, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, could you read this note from October 3rd?
Yes.
Can you read it to the jury?
Oh, you want me to read it now?
Please.
I'm sorry. I thought like had I read it before. Yeah. NC came to class late due to the fact that he had a dress code violation. He came dressed as Spider-Man. NC came in with a lot of energy. He had to take a makeup test and was having a hard time focusing. I moved his seat and he began testing, but asking a lot of questions, and he continued to talk with a baby voice. I asked him to stop talking like a baby, and he continued to do so. Then NC dropped his materials on the floor and shouted out the F word. I called security and had him removed.
Okay. Do you recall that incident?
I mean, I recall it from my log,
Okay.
but it was 9 years ago, so I don't specifically remember everything that entailed it except for what I wrote in the log.
Okay. And can we go to page 17 from October 14th, please? And can you read that note from October 14th, please?
NC came unescorted to class. He did not have any of his supplies, no pencil, warm-up, or reading log for the giver. He immediately threw out his lunch and asked another student if he could borrow money. He was laughing during the lesson while we were reading the giver. There was nothing funny about the material that we were covering. He also ripped off the pencil eraser and threw it from his seat into the garbage can. NC also attempted to ask an inappropriate question about where babies came from in relation to the book. Since they have a birth mother, which is mentioned in the book, he wanted to know about the birth father and if they do the F word. He also told students that he could teach them about this.
Okay. And then can we look at page 18, please, October 17th?
Would you like for me to read that as well?
Please.
Walked in and went straight to my desk and stole 4 pencils off my desk. Proceeded to sharpen my pencils as well as his own pencils. I asked him about the pencils and he returned 2 of them, but then said that the rest were his. After looking at the pencils, I showed him the marks on them and showed them that they were mine, and then he returned the other 2. NC proceeded to begin reading the novel that we were reading in class along with the audio. He was on task during most of the audio. However, he would occasionally laugh out loud and look around the room to see who was watching him, trying to get attention. I looked at him each time, redirecting him to continue reading.
Okay. And you also testified that his behaviors were disrespectful, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to look at page 16, please. Note for a note from October 1st. Okay. If you could read that, please.
NC refused to take out his warm-up. He kept opening and closing his umbrella in the classroom. NC lost his work from yesterday. He crumpled it up and put it in his bag and could not find it today. I gave him a new sheet and he proceeded to begin his work. He then ripped it up and wrote in very large, illegible handwriting on the paper. I tried to assist him and he stated, "I don't want your help." When talking about figurative language and onomatopoeias, NC shouted out, "Like a gun shooting, NC will find any excuse to bring up shooting guns or violence." NC was very defiant with instructions today. He had a hard time staying focused and was looking for any excuse to get up out of his seat or get attention. When another student commented on a writing assignment about writing about Jesus as their hero, NC shouted out, "That's bullshit." He was reprimanded and sent to another seat in the classroom away from that student. NC continued to make noises during SSR.
Okay. And can we look at page 18, please, October 23rd? Can you read the note from October 23rd, please?
Mr. Lindsay stayed in the classroom for the first 15 minutes approximately, and NC was on his best behavior. As soon as Mr. Lindsay left the room, NC celebrated and screamed, "Yes, now I can talk." Then he proceeded to make comments and get very excited. I quietly tried to calm him down by asking him to follow along with the lesson, and I stood next to him for a few minutes. NC continued to talk, and when I said, "I know that you can behave, I've seen you, you're a good kid," he responded by shouting, "I'm a bad kid, I want to kill."
Okay. What about, can we look at page 20, please, November 12th? Okay. If you could read the first couple paragraphs of that one, please.
NC came into my class today with an adult that was observing him. He came in nice and quietly, but then began to act out when the class began to do work. I offered him several opportunities to begin his work, even provided him with makeup work and additional worksheets since he'd thrown away previous worksheets that were supplied to him. NC crumpled up the worksheets, tore them, and threw them away. Then he began to act out. NC said, "You're a mother F." When I asked him about the worksheets, he also shouted F in the classroom and then screamed goodbye faggots when security came to remove him.
Okay. And then page 25, please, from January 14th of 2014.
NC came into class with a bit of an attitude. He mumbled under his breath and sat down in his seat. As I proceeded to go over what we were doing, he was talking across the room to another student. When I asked him to be quiet, he said, "I don't care if you're talking." He then proceeded to threaten me about his grade on the assignment. He said, "You better give me a good grade on this assignment." During class presentations, he shouted out rude comments to other students. When asked to stop shouting out, he would yell out profanities, either directed at me or other students. Some comments were as follows: "Go F yourself, I don't give an F, F you." And then I wrote him a referral.
Okay. Did Nicholas ever display any aggression in your classroom?
Yes.
Okay. And can we look at the note on page 18, please, from October 18th? I'm sorry. Maybe if we could go up, I'm sorry, maybe it's the one before that. I have the wrong date. I apologize. Okay. I think I have the wrong note on that. Can we look at page 23, please, from December 12th? Oh, I'm sorry, here it is. It was October 21st. I'm sorry, can we read the note from October 21st on this page, please?
NC tried to sneak out of into my classroom while I was walking out the door to use the restroom. I caught him and asked him to wait outside. He listened and waited nicely outside the door. Once I re-entered the classroom and began going over the day's assignments, NC proceeded to shout at me to answer questions.
Ms. Yon, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you slow down? You're reading a little bit fast.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Once I re-entered the class and began going over the day's assignments, NC proceeded to shout at me to answer a question. "What are you talking about? What? He did this over and over again. I asked him to listen and to wait, and his response was, "Or what?" I told him that he'd have to be asked to leave if he kept up this disruptive behavior. NC then stood up in my classroom and stuck his middle finger up at a student across the classroom. As I walked over to the phone to call for security, NC screamed, "No, don't," and ran across the classroom and took the phone and would not let me call security. I sent a student out of the class to tell another teacher to call for security. NC attempted to call 911 on my phone, and when it didn't work, he banged the receiver against the phone several times. He eventually stopped, grabbed his belongings, and ran out of the classroom.
Okay. And I want to look at the note from on page 23 from December 12th of 2013, please. Okay, can you just read the first paragraph of that note, please?
Yes. NC was unescorted. NC was unescorted today and hanging out in the hallways. When I left my classroom to use the restroom, I told him I'd be right back, and he responded by saying, "Screw you." I told him that it was inappropriate and unnecessary. He then responded by saying, "Get out of here." When I came back to my classroom, I had makeup work for him to do, so I walked over to the ESC room to give it to them to work on. As I walked past him, he made a move as if he was going to lunge at me and laughed. I ignored his behavior. When I came back from the ESC room, I asked him to go there to complete his work.
Okay. And I want to go to the note on page 24, please, from December 19th. If you could read that note, please.
NC was escorted in with a sub, shadowing him today. He came in nicely, but then began to use profanity. A student made a comment about him and another kid joking around, and then NC threatened to attack him. NC made the following comments: "I'm going to attack you, and I'll kick your ass if you don't stop." NC also used profanity several times in class, calling another student an extremely inappropriate name.
Okay, so he's being aggressive toward you and other students in your class, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and one last one on this, page 21, please, November 20th. Okay, if you could read that note, please.
NC came into class without Miss F today. He sat nicely but had no supplies. I offered him a new warm-up and told him that he could leave it in the class daily so that he not lose it. Approximately 5 to 10 minutes later, Miss F came into the classroom. Miss F prompted NC to do some work and provided him with paper. She also began his warm-up for him. We had a fire drill approximately 15 minutes into class. NC at first panicked and then calmed down. He walked with the class to the location that we were to go to for the fire drill, which was off Holmberg Road. NC stood up against the fence with his friends and was talking to them. When the car came down the street, NC decided to dart out into the road in front of the car. All the teachers yelled at him to get out of the road. NC laughed and just went back to the fence. I addressed how dangerous this was with NC, and he continued to laugh. An administrator, Ms. Hearn, came over to help address the issue. NC was asked to go with the administrator and refused to go with her. A male AP, Mr. LePatten, was called for support. He went with Mr. LePatten. I'll be issuing him a referral.
Okay. Did you document in your notes also some of his inappropriate sexual behavior?
I believe I did.
Okay, and if we could look, please, at page 14, the note from September 18th. Okay, if you could read that note for us, please.
Nick entered the class nicely, but then proceeded to panic during the fire drill. Nick was warned of the fire drill previously and had no reason to be alarmed. Nick ran out of the classroom for a minute before all the students were able to leave for the drill, and then came back in as the last student was leaving. Nick was told to walk next to me and continuously tried to walk away from me as he headed to the basketball courts. On the way to the courts, he purposely stepped on the other students' shoes, feet, and held out his arms as we crossed the courts to knock into other students. Nick was redirected several times and told to stop these actions. When waiting on the courts for the all clear whistle, Nick stuck up his middle fingers on both hands and directed them at other students across the basketball courts. Nick was told to stop immediately. Nick was also told to pull up his pants as they were sagging below his bottom. Once we all returned to the classroom, Nick was very worked up and anxious. He was looking around the room during the lesson and making obscene gestures with his pencil in his hands, sexual in content. Nick was written a referral for the obscene gestures in class and the middle finger gestures on the basketball court.
Okay, thank you. And then one more, page 24, please, from January 10th. If you could just read that note, please.
NC was not disrupted during class. However, he drew inappropriate pictures and used inappropriate language while working on a class assignment. He designed an ad and a TV commercial for a sex toy. I requested that he change his product to one that was appropriate for school, and he told me that he thought this was appropriate.
Okay. Was his behavior typical of the students in your class?
Not at all.
And did you have you ever had any students in your class behave in this way on a consistent basis?
No.
Okay. Did Nicholas seem to behave better when he had one-on-one supervision?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to show you page 20, the note from November 18th, please. November 18th, if you could read that.
Ms. Fondren came to class with NC today. He came in and sat down quietly. I gave him the warm-up worksheet to begin his work. He did not complete his warm-up and crinkled it up into a ball. Ms. Fondren asked him to take it out and open it up. He followed her directions and then completed some of the warm-up. Ms. F gave NC one of my pencils to use in class. He broke the eraser and picked at the wood. He also tore up one of the cards that I passed out to put the students into groups. NC did work with 2 other students and followed most of the directions in class. He did not complete all his work, but was not disruptive.
Okay. And who is Miss Fondren?
She's the behavioral specialist.
Okay. And is she a licensed teacher?
I don't know what her license is.
Okay. Do you know if she's a specially certified ESE teacher?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. I want to look at page 23, please, the note from December 13th. Okay, if you could read the brief note from November 13th, please.
NC had a great day. Mr. Lindsay and Ms. Fondren were in my class. He participated and stayed on task.
Okay. And I would like to go to page 22, please, the note from December 4th. Now, while we're getting to that note, even with these, I'm sorry, who's Mr. Lindsay?
He was the assistant principal during this time.
Okay, so when Ms. Fondren or Mr. Lindsay would come and sit in the class with him, he would behave better, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, but could he do the work at that point, or is he still not able to do the work?
I don't recall.
Okay, if we could look at the December 4th note, please, if you could read that.
NC waited out in the hallway unescorted and did not cause any problems. When he entered the classroom 5 minutes later, Ms. Fondren came in as well. NC sat down. I gave him his warm-up activity. He began his work and did not cause any disruptions. Once we began the day's lesson, I walked over to explain what we were doing since he'd been absent the last days that we began new material. NC at first said that he didn't want my help, so I walked away. I went back to him 5 minutes later and he was more receptive. He began doing some of his work. However, later on, when I reviewed the assignment, he had drawn a picture of a penis and wrote "F you bitch" at the bottom of the page. NC also wrote "F you" on the desk in pen.
Okay, so he was behaved better, but he still wasn't able to complete that assignment. Is that right?
That's what it seems like, yes. I don't recall seeing him turning any work that was on an 8th grade level.
Okay. And are there more examples of these types of behaviors that we just talked about in all of the records that you, the notes that you took and the records you saved?
Yes, within my logs, yes.
Okay. Now, for the functional behavioral assessment, were you also asked to fill out a questionnaire about Nicholas?
Yes.
And were you the only teacher that filled out a questionnaire?
I don't know.
Okay. And I want to show what has already been entered into evidence from the school records, pages 1870 to 1871. I think we'll see the SBBC number. I know you have that. It'll be there when we pull it up. Can you scroll down, I'm sorry, this slide just for a moment so we can see the SBBC number?
Well, I have it separate.
So it's 1824 and 1825? Okay, and if you can scroll back up. Okay, so is this the document that you filled out for his functional behavioral assessment?
Yes.
Okay. And can you read the questions and your answers, please?
What are the child's strengths, skills, and interests? Nicholas is interested in video games and science. He likes National Geographic type literature.
Okay.
In what areas does the child have difficulty? What are some of the challenges he or she faces? Nicholas has a lot of difficulty communicating his thoughts and feelings with his peers and teachers. He also struggles with writing and has a difficult time staying focused in class.
Okay.
What people, things, and activities does the child like most? He likes to play video games and joke around to get attention from other students. He appears to have a few friends in school, but he does not get along with most of the students or the faculty due to his erratic behavior. Number 4, what people, things, and activities does the child like the least? Nicholas does not like to do his language arts work and does not like to write very much because it's difficult for him. He also shows a strong dislike for following any guidelines or rules that are enforced upon him. Number 5, briefly describe the child's problematic behaviors. Nicholas has very erratic and unsettling behaviors in the classroom. For example, he will shout out and make loud noises or comments, run out of the classroom screaming, or says inappropriate comments, sexual and or violent. Nicholas has repeatedly drawn naked individuals showing all body parts and has drawn violent images, people shooting at each other. Nicholas has also skipped school, class, and wanders off throughout the day.
Okay. We could scroll down a little bit.
Number 6, what do you think causes or motivates the behavior? Example, why do they do it? Nicholas is playing inappropriate video games at home and does not understand the difference between reality and fantasy. He also likes attention from his peers and will do whatever he can to get everyone to laugh at him. When do these behaviors occur? Throughout the entire day. Where do these behaviors occur? I see them at school. However, I believe they also occur at home as well. With whom do these behaviors occur? Adults, students, teachers.
Okay.
Can you tell when the problematic behavior is going to occur? Are there any noticeable signs? When Nicholas comes to class with a lot of energy, you can tell that he's having trouble controlling himself and that you'll most likely see his problematic behavior. However, I have seen him do things out of the blue when he's sitting calmly in his seat. There are not always warning signs. What demands are placed on the child? For example, what is the child asked to do at home for parents or in the classroom for teachers? Nicholas is required to complete the same classwork as his peers. He has work to complete in his seat. Each day the assignment differs, but he's expected to complete the classwork.
Okay, and let me just
What
stop
skills?
you. I'm sorry, I just want to stop you for 1 second. When you say he's required to complete the same classwork as his peers, that includes ESE students, non-ESE students, any student in your class,
Yes.
and he completes the
They
same?
get additional, sorry.
Go ahead.
There's additional services that they can have to help them with the work, but they're expected to do the same grade level work.
Okay. If you would continue at number 12, please.
What skills could the child benefit from learning that might help improve behavior? I believe that Nicholas lacks self-control. He would benefit from learning how to control his impulses and actions. He needs to channel energy in a different way. How do you respond to the child's problem behavior? Depending on Nicholas's actions, I usually talk to him calmly and quietly to settle him down and point out how the behavior is inappropriate. I also try to give him an example of how he can show good behavior. How do you respond to the child's positive, appropriate behavior? I offer Nicholas incentives such as candy and verbally compliment him when he is on task and doing his work. What do you think will help this child? I believe that this child needs to be in a special school with smaller classrooms and locked doors. He needs to have more one-on-one with the teacher and less distractions in a regular classroom. Nicholas shows signs of ADHD and could probably benefit from being on some medication. And it says, if necessary, please write additional comments, suggestions on a separate sheet of paper and attach it to this form. I strongly feel that Nicholas is a danger to the students and faculty at the school. I do not feel that he understands the difference between his violent video games and reality. He's constantly showing aggressive behavior and poor judgment. His drawings in class show violent acts, people shooting at each other, or creepy sexual pictures, dogs with large penises. He's pretended to masturbate in class. He uses foul language and disregards everyone around him. Nicholas has been reprimanded on many occasions, verbally, referrals, IS, etc., and continues to act in the same manner over and over again. I would like to see him sent to a facility that is more prepared and has the proper settings to deal with this type of child.
Ma'am, can you slow down, please? We have a court reporter here, and she types very, very fast, but she's having a hard time keeping up. Her fingers are cramping.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Do you want me to
that's
start?
okay.
Okay.
Maybe she can read it again slower.
Well, we can give the document to Ms. Bailey
Okay.
later, and she can, okay. And then if we can go down to the next page. Do you remember a Ms. Winninger?
Yes.
And who was she?
She was the reading specialist, I believe, at the time, and department chair. She was also a reading teacher.
Okay. And do you know how she worked with Nicholas?
I don't.
Okay. I mean, do you know if it was in a class or a one-on-one basis?
I don't recall.
Okay. And have you seen this document before? Maybe if you can scroll down a little bit too.
Not so recent. I don't think I've seen it back then. I don't think I saw it. Actually, I don't even know if I'd seen this. I don't recall this. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember a teacher named Erica Polijenko?
Yes.
Okay. What did she teach?
She also taught reading.
And did you ever discuss Nicholas with her?
Quite often. She was in the room right next door to me.
And what did you talk about with respect to Nicholas?
Behavior problems, how we could help each other, and just what to do. We were trying to problem solve.
Okay. So did you come up with any strategies to help each other in dealing with him?
We did. We would send a student out with a note to the other teacher to call security so that it wouldn't alarm him and set him off.
Okay. Do you recall her filling out a similar form for the functional behavioral assessment?
I don't recall.
Okay. If I were to show it to you, would it maybe refresh your recollection?
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay. It's page 1874. I'll see it would be just 2 or 3 pages from hers.
I don't recall seeing these beforehand or a while ago. Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you scroll back up, please? Okay. Just for a moment. No. So she's indicating here some of the same behaviors that you're seeing.
Yes.
Okay. And she indicates he likes the least having a negative comment or a bad grade on his work. Do you see that for number 4? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
If we could
yes.
scroll down, I'm sorry, to the bottom, please. Now, she's also asked what she thinks would help this child. Did you ever discuss any of these things with her, having him evaluated by a psychiatrist?
I don't recall specifically. We had so many conversations, so it's possible, but it was 9 years ago. I don't recall specifically what we talked about.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Also, she indicates something about looking into the trauma from his past. Do you know anything about that?
About her looking into it or about his past?
About trauma he may have suffered in the past. Did you ever?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that?
Seeing his father pass away.
Okay. Did you discuss with Ms. Polajenko that he needed to be transferred to a more supportive environment educationally?
I don't recall specifically, but we talked about, ways that we could manage him. So I'm sure it might have come up, but I don't specifically recall if we said that to each other. That's it. I mean, probably.
Okay. Was Mr. Cruz able to walk around the campus by himself?
At the beginning of the school year, and then it became a problem, and then he was no longer allowed to walk around by himself.
Okay. May I have just one moment?
You may.
After the functional behavioral assessment was completed, do you recall any of the behavioral suggestions that were made for Nicholas?
Some positive reinforcements and things like that they addressed. They wanted to try to give him incentives to behave well.
Okay. Okay. What happened as a result of the functional behavioral assessment, if you know?
They ended up having, I don't know what the next step was, but I believe we ended up having a meeting about him transferring to another school.
Okay. And do you know what a positive behavioral intervention plan is?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if that was created?
Yes, that was great. That's a step in between, yes, that you're mentioning, where they talked about giving him incentives, positive reinforcement to help his behavior.
Okay. Did you believe that positive behavior intervention plan was sufficient?
No.
Okay. And did you write a note about that?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember what it said?
I don't recall.
Okay. If we were to show it to you, would it maybe refresh your recollection? Okay. Can
Yes.
you show her just page 68, please? Does this look like the note that you wrote?
Yeah, those are my personal notes. Yes.
Okay. Were you asked to document the behavior after the positive behavior intervention plan was created?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I was doing it anyhow, so it didn't, I was keeping a log of everything that was happening regardless. So I don't remember them specifically asking me to, I just did.
Okay. And did you ever, do you know what an ABC form is?
Yes,
Okay. And did you complete any of those with regard to Nicholas?
yes.
Okay. And can we show her page 30, please? Is this one of those forms?
Yes,
Okay. And did you fill this one out?
yes.
Okay. So what is the A section?
The antecedents describe the activity that's happening in the classroom before the behavior comes up, before the student starts misbehaving. And then you log the behavior and then the consequence of the behavior.
Okay. So from this form, what was going on in the class when he began misbehaving?
We were discussing the Odyssey with the students, reviewing and just discussing what we read, making sure they understand it.
Okay. And what was his behavior?
He continued to make noises like a sheep. He was looking around the classroom to see who was watching him.
Okay. And what were the consequences?
So he did this multiple times. He was asked to stop each time, and I ended up moving his seat so he could focus, hoping he could focus and follow along the rest of the lesson.
Okay. And did you believe that the Odyssey was a book that Nicholas would be able to read and understand?
No, it's difficult for the 8th grade level regardless, but definitely for him, I didn't think he would understand it. But that's part of the lesson, is going over comprehension and helping them understand it.
Okay. Other than Ms. Polajenko, did you discuss your concerns about Nicholas with any of the other teachers?
Yes.
And do you remember who?
Pretty much the whole team of teachers. We all discussed it multiple times at different occasions, different events that were happening. The resource teachers, system principals.
What was the response of the other teachers with regard to you voicing these concerns?
Most of the other teachers felt exactly the same way. Some were a little bit afraid to say anything or do anything, but everybody struggled with him regardless.
Okay, did you discuss, discuss your concerns about him to the ESE staff?
Yes.
And did they assist you in any way?
Some of them tried. They did what they could. They would take him into the room to work with him when they could.
Okay, and you said that Ms. Fondren would come in sometimes to assist?
Yes.
Okay, and did you ever express any concern to her about Nicholas?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember what she told you?
We had several discussions, but yes.
Okay.
She told me different ways to try and manage him at different times.
Okay, I want to show you on page 23 a note that you have from December 12th. Okay, and if you could read me the third paragraph from that note. I think we already read the first two.
Ms. Fondren came over and lectured me on how she was not my personal security guard and how she was here for the children. She then went on telling me that I should not be afraid of him and that I should stand up to him and get in his face and say, hit me, go ahead, hit me, to show him that I'm not afraid.
You need to, can you slow down, ma'am?
Ma'am, you need to slow down.
I'm sorry.
You're reading over 300 words a minute. Please slow down. Thank you.
Should I go back?
To get in his face and say,
So if you could start reading after say, which is the first word on the fourth line.
Okay. And say, hit me, go ahead, hit me, to show him that I'm not afraid. I I informed Ms. Fondren that I was not comfortable with that tactic and that I was not going to deal with NC in this manner. Ms. Fondren and I exchanged our differences in opinions and tactics, and I went back to my class.
Okay. Did you discuss your concerns about Nicholas with his ESE family counselor?
I might have. I spoke to everybody that would listen. So I spoke to a lot of people back then. I don't remember specifically if I spoke to her.
Okay, do you remember her name?
There were several counselors. I don't.
Okay. And what about Nicholas's mother? Did you ever discuss your concerns about him with her?
Yes.
And was she receptive to your concerns?
She was. I don't think she necessarily followed through, but she listened and she understood. She just, I think, struggled with following through with consequences.
Okay. Did she appear to make excuses for his behavior?
She did at times, yes.
Okay. And I want to show you on page 13 a note from September 9th, please. Can you read that note, please?
IEP meeting, spoke to Linda about Nick's inappropriate behavior and the language he was using in his work again. Showed Linda Nick's work and explained the seriousness of it. She did not seem very concerned. She claimed that he's a boy going through puberty.
Okay. And then I want to show you on page 17. If you could just read the last paragraph, please.
Spoke to his mother on the phone about his behavior and his F in my class. Mentioned that he should have homework every night. Discussed what he does in the evenings. She's been rewarding him with the Xbox. We discussed that he should not be playing violent games and that he should be put in a different school that can help with his behavior and emotional issues. We also discussed his obsession with guns and violence. She stated that he's interested in buying a BB gun from Walmart and was asking his mom repeatedly if he could get the gun, promising that he would just shoot at trees. She told him that it was for mature 18-plus individuals only, but made it sound like there was a possibility of him getting one in the future.
Okay. And did she appear to be able to control his behavior at home?
No.
Okay, and I just want to show you one more note from November 4th at page 20. If you could just read, you can just read the third
When
paragraph.
he came to class with Miss Reed, escorting him, I walked over to the door to give the work to Nick to have him go to Miss Searcouch's room to complete his assignment. NC proceeded to scream into the classroom at another student, F you effing rapist. He also took the book that I handed to him and threw it into the classroom. Miss Reed escorted him away from my class.
Okay, can you read the third paragraph of that, please?
I met with NC's mom during the FBA today. I informed her of what happened with NC at school during my class. She was visibly upset about his actions and is at a loss as how to handle his behavior.
Okay. Did you discuss your concerns about Nicholas with the school administrators?
Yes.
Did they assist you in any way?
Some were very helpful and some were not.
Okay, the ones who were not helpful, what did they tell you?
That he had a right to an education and he had a right to be there just like all the other kids.
Okay. What about the ones who were helpful?
Mr. Lindsay came in and sat in my room when I was uncomfortable and didn't want to be alone. He would come walk in and sit there and work out of my classroom to watch to make sure everything was okay.
Okay. Did you reach out to anyone outside of the school for assistance?
I did.
And who was that?
I reached out to the BTU attorney to
Okay,
see what my rights were. I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to see what my rights were as a teacher in the classroom and the students' rights regarding
Okay.
safety.
And what is the BTU?
The Broward Teachers Union.
Okay, so you reached out to him to see what your rights were with regard to what?
To him being in the classroom environment and if he could be removed from the school and, you know, what the procedures were and, you know, things like that.
Okay. Did Mr. Cruz's behavior scare you?
At times, yes.
Do you know if he scared the other students?
I believe at times he did, yes.
And I think you mentioned earlier you thought he might be trying to get himself kicked out of West Glades Middle. Why do you think he wanted to be kicked out of that school?
I just think he wasn't happy there. I don't know that I had any real true friends. It was hard for him to do the work.
Okay, and when you documented this behavior and you tried to discuss this with anybody that would listen, what was it you were trying to do?
I was trying to get him help and make sure that the environment was safe for the students in the classroom.
And why is that?
It didn't feel safe
Okay.
for anyone there.
And what about for Nicholas? What did you think needed to happen?
He needed to be in a different environment that could help him psychologically and with his education as well, just in every way.
Okay. May I have a moment, Judge?
You may.
Ma'am, I asked you earlier about why you saved all of this documentation. And you gave a deposition in this case, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and do you recall being asked about that in your deposition?
yes.
Okay, and do you,
Objection, I mean, is she impeaching her own witness?
I'm not impeaching her, I'm asking her if she remembers being asked.
You need to ask open-ended questions.
What did you say was the reason in the deposition, if you remember?
I don't remember specifically, but I was afraid it was going to get lost, that the material was going to disappear. I was, you know, trying to provide it to everybody so that we could take some action, and I didn't want anything going missing. I wanted to keep a record of what was happening every day. There was a lot happening.
Okay, you had a concern that somehow your documentation would get misplaced?
Sustained.
Been
Okay,
asked
I don't have
and
any-
Answered.
Okay, I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a lunch recess. I understand that yesterday I did not give you enough time. I apologize. I know it takes a considerable amount of time for all of you to get all the way out and get all the way back in through security, so I am going to give you more time.